because Donald Trump has announced he is pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord. This is what he said.
I'm immediately withdrawing from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord ripoff. The United States will not sabotage our own industries while China pollutes with impunity.
Kosha, I want to get to the consequences for Australia in a moment, but firstly, Donald Trump's been professing the new green scam, as he's been calling renewable energy for the last few years. So this doesn't come as a surprise. But what does it mean now for climate targets that were put in place by the Biden administration?
It dismantles them. This whole Paris Climate Accord has been a yo-yo, where Obama signed them in. As soon as Trump won the first time, he withdrew. There was sort of an expiration period where he couldn't do it overnight, had to let it run its course, finally withdrew, lost the election, Biden comes in, reinstates it, and now back to removing it. So each time that yo-yo sort of has been going back and forth, but I think, as he said there, that it runs antithetical to his agenda, which is U.S. energy dominance, growing industry at home, and these types of agreements. Even if you support wanting to keep the planet clean, which I think most people do, these agreements don't get there. It's just a massive transfer of power and transfer of wealth from some nations to others, some sectors to others, and it means in time, when this stuff is unwound, it will not cease to exist.
Well, hopefully this is a big wake-up call for here in Australia with our renewable energy fantasy that we're going down under. But what does pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord now mean for Australia? Because it had been foreshadowed for some time. Mm-hmm. Does it impact us at all?
Hopefully it gives a little bit of a permission structure to push harder, because it's been a mini yo-yo here too, where Prime Minister Abbott, I think, signed on to it, and then he actually wanted to withdraw from it once the details came out, and then couldn't politically, and all the rest of it. So maybe we've got our own election coming up over here. This might pave the way for that type of discussion. Also, just specifically that transfer of wealth and power that we mentioned, the United States taxpayer funds a lot of projects that other countries are beneficiaries of through this accord, and if we pull out, if the US pulls out, then that funding dries up, and that may have some ripple effect to other countries, including Australia.
Well, I just find it fascinating that he's putting America first, which is exactly what he promised to do, and I hope that sets a standard for places like Australia first. Put your own country first and stop relying overseas. Now, let's move on, because one of the other things that was quite notable was the big tech titans who were on full display at the inauguration. You had Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Sundar Pichai and Tim Cook. They all hung out together, and apparently it was by choice. They looked very chummy in a number of the photos. But I read that the combined net wealth of the billionaires who attended the event was $1.2 trillion US dollars, Kosha, which is absolutely phenomenal. Now, some of these tech giants we know in the past, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they have criticised Donald Trump. But now it seems the tide has turned. They're all suddenly kissing the ring. Why do you think it's important in particular, not just for billionaires, but for the technology world to be in with Donald Trump as opposed to out?
This is a big story from this election. The tide has turned because Trump turned it. They sort of came kicking and screaming because decidedly over the past, I would say 3 or 4 decades, even well before Trump, Silicon Valley has been very favorable to the left in cash and kind. If you look at their donations, if you look at the issue set that they lobby for, it's not always in line with the America First or sort of the populist mantra. And in kind, all the suppression of the Hunter Biden laptop story or of COVID origin theories and all of that helped one side much, much more than the other. So it's really interesting from that to this, where they're kissing the ring and donating to his inauguration fund and looking all chummy. I think some of it might be self-preservation or expediency on their part, which is fine. You don't have to like each other, but if you've got common cause for the goal of America First, wonderful. And some of it might be that they just know that this is where the power is now, and it's in their interest to get on board, because if not, they'll be left behind.
But also, what does it say about Donald Trump as a businessman? Because, it would be easy just to snub these people who have been quite rude to him in public forums for many years, but he knows how to foster relationships.
He really does, which is so funny given just the caricature that most of the world's media put on him and painted him as. He's actually very good at, he will counterpunch. We all know that. He's coarse in his style, but he is actually very good at letting bygones be bygones when it's time to forge a new alliance. You could see that with all sorts of people, from Megyn Kelly, as an example, a journalist, to these tech folks over here, and everyone in between. If there's common ground to be found for his vision of America First, he will do a deal.
He will do it, yeah, which is a good president. That's a good leader in my opinion, a very good leader. Now, President Trump also vowed to be the first commander-in-chief to put US astronauts on Mars. This is what he said.
And we will pursue our manifest destiny into the stars, launching American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the planet Mars.
But I got to say, I really liked this. This response from Elon Musk says it all. Oh, he's very happy. Elon Musk is stoked. But, look, the space race is interesting at the moment, Kosher, because you've got countries worldwide, China, Russia, everybody is competing in that sphere now. What role does the US play?
Such a central question. So it's been 56 years since America decidedly took the mantle there and sent the first man on the moon. Nobody else has done it since then. And you could argue that era was the peak of US exceptionalism and ingenuity, and it all sort of manifests in that moment of Neil Armstrong going on there and having a phone call with Richard Nixon. And since then, the last half century, it's been a managed decline in so many aspects, US society, economically, culturally, and everything else. So Trump clearly has a vision. All these things he's talking about in terms of economics, culture, regulations, foreign policy, all of that, America first, make it strong. And then the manifestation of that, the pinnacle of it, is going back and winning the space race and out-competing other countries that have come a long way, like China, since then. That's his mission. That's something that Elon Musk has said is a big motivation
Clearly.
for him. So that's that common cause that we talked about.
No, I think it's terrific. It's going to be interesting. Plus, it's a huge industry, the space industry. So I look forward to see what happens there. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy has pulled the pin as co-leader of the Department of Government Efficiency, apparently due to his interest in running for governor of Ohio. Kosher, I was quite surprised by this. It didn't take very long. It was picked by Donald Trump, but now he's left.
It always probably was a conceptual thing, having two leaders, co-CEOs, two billionaires.
With Elon Musk.
With Elon Musk, and Vivek. Nice idea, but I always thought maybe, I'm not sure, too many cooks in the kitchen, one could argue. But I think the more important reason is the governorship. So he's from Ohio. The governor there, Mark Devine, is term limited. So in 2026, that's going to be an open seat. Vivek kind of came out of nowhere and just in 15 minutes really went from a nobody to a household name now in America. So strike while the iron's hot. And if he does win, then that's a good thing because he is, generally speaking, America first and an ally of Trump, and we need more governors. Trump needs more governors that support his agenda.
Absolutely. Yeah, it didn't last very long at all. Now, we have to talk about Barron Trump, the son, of course, of Melania and Donald Trump, who has once again stolen the show at the inauguration. The internet is abuzz talking about how tall and stature this man is and say that he is a president in waiting. I tend to agree, Kosher. We know that he played quite a pivotal part in his father's election campaign. He was the one who encouraged him to go on podcasts like Joe Rogan, which really helped him get over the line. But you just look at him, he's so staunch, he's a strong man, and I think he's going to be a future leader. What do you think?
He's got a lot of the raw ingredients. So people love the Trump kids and the Trump family. They're also well put together, they're very attractive, they're smart, they're accomplished, all of that. And he was just a little 10-year-old boy the last time around, and they've sort of been keeping him out of the limelight, very private people, Melania famously, and now he's back thrust onto the scene, so tall. I think he's 6'7".
Yeah.
He's completely grown up in front of our eyes. And as you mentioned, he played a pivotal role in his media strategy. He seems to love the crowd and the energy. But like his mother, he doesn't say much. He's a little bit of an enigma. And I think that will serve him well, where he's creating a lot of interest and he may burst out onto the scene at some point in the future.
I completely agree. All eyes on Barron. I just think he's an absolute star. Now, speaking of his mother, we've got to talk about the fashion because Melania looked very sharp today, but her hat got in the way of an important photo opportunity. Have a look. Well, you can't help it. Trump gave it a go. But meanwhile, Jeffrey Bezos' fiance's outfit was a little lingerie number. It's raised some eyebrows. And I've got to say, it looked like it raised Mark Zuckerberg's eyebrows too. We've got some vision there. He couldn't keep his eyes off her as well. But look, firstly, Melania, I thought looked lovely. Not sure about this outfit. What do you think?
Agree. I call Melania's outfit high fashion warpath because there's a message she's sending. It's like, this is my space. It's like an armor. don't mess with me. And the fashion industry very openly snubbed her the first time around. She objectively is the most gorgeous first lady, and they said they wouldn't dress her, never put her on the cover of magazines, as she'd already been on them previously, etc.
Exactly.
And Jeff Bezos' fiance, I think she probably should have chosen something different.
Questionable. It's questionable, Kosha. It certainly is. Well, it's been wonderful to speak with you. Thanks for joining me to unpack what's been a historic day in the US. Appreciate your time, Kosha Garter. Thank you.